Well, I wanted to discuss today something that's important. How important is it with the Mandela effect for us to tell other people about the Mandela effect? In other words, we know about it, we who are aware of these different changes that have caused us, some of us, grief in our personal life and have caught our attention. And it can be very upsetting when you find out that there is no polar ice cap at the North Pole, or that Rod Sterling never existed as Rod Sterling. And for me personally, that Herb Albert in the Tijuana Brass has never existed, that it's always been Herb Alpert. It's a small thing, but it's something I remember vividly, like the braces on Moonraker's Dolly. So those are things that are important to me, and I know that there are Mandela effects that are important to each one of us individually for whatever reason they may be. How important is it for us to go ahead and impart that to other people? In other words, how important is it to get other people to pay attention to it, and what's the reason that it would be so important? One thing is, I know for myself, I don't want to feel like I'm losing my mind when I look at these different things. And I think to myself, can this possibly be real? I still think that way. It's hard to imagine that anything like this could ever happen. That quantum changes caused by particle accelerations experiments could have an effect on our fabric of reality. And yet that seems to be what's happening. I read a lot of things and I look at videos all the time. Other people have all kinds of ideas about how we're changing things by mass consciousness, but I don't buy into any of those theories because we've always had mass consciousness, and we've had way too many people in the world for a very long time. So if we were able to affect reality in that sense, that dramatically, then we would have already noticed all this a long time ago. But the thing that's new is the Mandela effect. Relatively speaking, it's new. And the other thing that's new is the particle acceleration experiments. So I paired the two together because that's the only causal factor that makes any sense, according to my reasoning and education. So that's what I put together. I think many people will agree with me. But I think it's important, and the reason I'm bringing this up to talk to other people about it is not because, it is on a personal level, it's important because you don't want to think that you're going mad, and nobody likes to suffer by themselves. In other words, we don't want to suffer alone and think, well, I'm having to shoulder a disproportionate burden about this subject because nobody else knows about it. It's kind of like knowing about a big sinkhole that's sucking in people's property, but nobody else, you can't tell anybody else, and nobody believes you that there's a sinkhole or whatever analogy you want to use. That would be very distressful. This is more than a sinkhole that's sucking things in. This is actually something that's changing things. It's not eliminating things. It's actually changing things. So this has the implication that it may affect, and it has affected everyone, whether they know it or not. What I mean is it has the potential to affect us more greatly, much more greatly than it has already. And in that, I find to be worrisome. Very concerned about it because I think if they keep doing these particle experiments and they're building more and more accelerators, even as we speak, all around the world in countries that haven't had them before, kind of like space travel, people want to explore space. Well, one country starts, and you could argue that the United States started, or you could argue that it was Germany or Russia or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Once one of us started, the others followed in progression quite quickly. And if they couldn't do it, they wanted to do it. Well, these particle accelerators are evidently easier to build than it would be to go into outer space. And so everybody's building them. And so now we're going to have particle accelerators, and we do have them all over the United States. I don't think people are aware of this. I don't think that they're aware that they're all around the world. And at any rate, when they accelerate the process of building these particle accelerators, and every time that they smash particles, what they're doing is they're opening a very minute window into an alternate timeline. In other words, for a brief second in time, whether it's a nanosecond or a millisecond, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. But for a very, very brief moment, there's a crossover from one reality to another. Now, most people at this time don't believe that there is more than one reality. So only people who study quantum physics really understand the whys and the hows as to having these parallel timelines. But I take it as a fact that there are parallel timelines because the math bears that out. And you can prove through mathematics that our timeline, as one physicist said, cannot possibly be the only timeline. So in other words, this can't be our only reality. It's not possible, the way the physics works out. If anybody's familiar with the Schrodinger cat experiment from the 1930s, that will explain quite a bit to you about quantum physics. And I think this is the gaffe. I think this is the problem, is that in order to explain the Mandela effect correctly, one has to delve into a little bit about quantum physics. And doing that is not an easy thing because most people are not interested in quantum physics. Most people don't understand it anyway. So you have to find people who are not only able, that have the capacity to understand these things, but you have to find people who are also interested in it. And that is not necessarily an easy thing to do, unfortunately. So those of us who are aware of quantum physics, rather the Mandela effect, and who can understand that it pairs up with particle accelerators and so forth, you don't really have to understand. You don't have to explain everything about quantum physics, thank God, or we'd never get anywhere, because nobody understands everything about quantum physics. So anyhow, the thing is, all you have to do is show them that reality exists in duality at least, but probably not just in tandem, but rather in multiple fields. I believe that it's an infinite thing, but nobody can prove or disprove that. But all you need to do is prove that there are more than one timeline. There is more than one timeline, and that bears out what we're dealing with, because you've got all these minor changes and major changes to the current reality as it has existed. All this talk about people having bad memories is just nonsense, because yeah, some people have bad memories, but they don't have bad memories about things like that there was a North Pole ice cap, or they don't have bad memories about so many different things like South America's position. No, wrong. There may be one or two people that have misunderstood where that South America was or whatever, but there's not going to be millions of people who misplace a continent in their mind. That's just not going to. That doesn't even make any sense. So anyway, I hope this video encourages you to talk to other people about it. Talk to them if you want to approach them first with the idea of quantum physics and that they should be interested in that, then that's a good idea, because people will acquiesce. They'll say, well, yeah, particle physics is interesting. They may not be interested, but tell them that there's a very good reason why they should be interested in quantum physics, in particle experiments. And that's something where you can start, where it makes perfect sense. And they're not going to look at you like you're from another planet, because you're talking about hard science. You're talking about current events. CERN is not the only particle collider. And they might want to know that there are many particle colliders we're spending a lot of money on them. If it takes that to get their interest, which most people would be interested in that, then do it that way. But tie it in with, this is maybe why you should be interested, because now this is different, and this is different over here. And if you don't believe me, research the Mandela effect, and then make up your mind. But don't just write it off. And my 10 minutes are about up, which is what I try to keep my videos to, about 10 minutes. because I don't want to have this turn into a dissertation. So thank you for watching and listening. And I'm thankful to God that we can be connected in this manner. We have this medium to communicate on, and God be with you all. We're going to need each other, I believe, more than ever in the next couple of years. So I hope I'm wrong, although I know we need each other for other reasons. But if I'm wrong, great. But if I'm right, it's better to err on the side of caution and really stay in touch with one another, encourage each other through the difficult times. Thank you.